What's going on, NBA fanatics? This is your friendly neighborhood Memphis Grizzlies, home of Memphis X, and I talk hoops. Today we are talking about Tarik Biberović. Why? Because Jaren Jackson Jr. is gone, Desmond Bane is gone, Morant is probably next to go. The Memphis Grizzlies, as we know them, are dead. Next gen is dead. So why am I bringing up Tarik Biberović now? Because honestly, it might be the best time for him to come over. And it might be the most complicated time.
I did come in for the 808. 808. Big man in the paint. iTalkHoops. Lay up. Free throw it swoosh. Throw it swoosh.
First, let's start off with who is Tarik. For those of you who don't know, Tarik is a 25-year-old, 6'7", 230-pound wing playing for Fenerbahce in the Turkish basketball Super League and the EuroLeague. He is Bosnian and he represents Turkey internationally. The Grizzlies drafted him in 2023, 56 overall, and have held his rights ever since. He is one of the last true draft and stash prospects in the league. You know, because with the NIL coming up, it's kind of a dying breed type of thing as European prospects are coming over to American colleges and playing basketball to start their career in America. Memphis has been waiting on this guy for 3 years. And the wait hasn't been wasted. Biberović just helped Fenerbahce win the 2025 EuroLeague championship, their first in years. He also won back-to-back Turkish championships and multiple Turkish cups. His career EuroLeague averages are about 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists per game. He has set a season high for 26 points and 6 3-pointers in a single game. He is a real live shooter. He has size at 6'7", and he wins. On paper, he is exactly what a rebuilding team needs on the wing, and something that the Grizzlies have been looking for in the draft and probably will be looking for in the draft this season. But here's the problem. Tarik has already said no. When Memphis came calling with an offer this past summer, Tarik turned them down flat. He said, "Leaving Fenerbahce is very difficult. My emotional connection and my whole life are here. Memphis wanted to bring me, but the most logical and correct decision for me was to stay. I sat down with my family, we talked for a long time, and we made this decision." Then, in July 2025, he signed a brand new 3-year extension with Fenerbahce. 3 years. He looked at the NBA, looked at Memphis specifically, and said, no thank you. And his deal runs through 2028. And I'm not sure if he has a buyout. Now, where things get interesting is when he said no, he was turning down a Memphis team that still had Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson. A team with star power, playoff aspirations, and a clear identity. A team that no longer exists. Bane is making big buckets in Orlando, and Ja and Jaren are visiting him courtside, watching his games. Jaren was traded to Utah for 3 first-round picks, and Morant is waiting for his trade this offseason. So the question becomes, if he said no to that version of Memphis, why would he say yes to this one? Let's be fair. The case against coming is strong. He just won a EuroLeague championship. He's playing for one of the most prestigious clubs in the European basketball with a built-in family atmosphere and emotional roots he's described as his whole entire life. His contract pays him well and runs through 2028. Memphis is entering a full live rebuild. They tanked most of this season, finished with one of the worst records in the league, and are now drafting lottery picks and piecing together a new core from scratch. So why would he leave the comfort, stability, and winning to come sit on a rebuilding roster making second-round contract money? On the surface, ain't no reason to. But let's turn things around. This rebuild is actually the argument for him coming. If he wants NBA minutes on a contending Memphis team, he would have been buried behind established stars. His role would have been smaller, the shots would have been fewer, and his ability to generate enough action to get a large, life-changing NBA contract after this one would be less. But on this version of the Memphis Grizzlies, he walks into what could be immediate playing time, a chance to grow with a young core, and the spotlight could be on him. There's a current foundation of Zach Edey, Cedric Howard, Gigi Jackson, and whoever Memphis drafts this summer. They're projected to hold, they have the 16th pick, the 32nd pick, and have the 6th best odds for the NBA draft lottery on Mother's Day. That is a young, ascending group. Tarik, at 6'7", with shooting range and a winning experience, fits perfectly next to Edey as a floor spacer. He would be a veteran presence who comes from a winning atmosphere, who knows how to play the game right, and not just a death piece behind superstars. That's a completely different role and a completely different pay structure he might be able to get from the Memphis Grizzlies. There's also a broader trend working against him staying in Europe forever. The NIL is pulling more prospects stateside earlier, which means the EuroLeague talent pipeline to the NBA is slowing down. The window to making jump matters. Biberović is 25 right now. If he waits until his contract expires in 2028, he'll be 27 years old with no established NBA track record. Most players who come over at that age are fighting for rotation spots, not starting roles. If he's coming now, or at least the next contract break is the window, Memphis could start those conversations over again this offseason. And Memphis has a big decision to make too, because Tarik's rights aren't just about Tarik. Teams like Minnesota, Philadelphia, Detroit, Orlando, Oklahoma City have all been mentioned as potential suitors interested in his draft rights. Memphis could flip those rights for draft capital, potentially getting back into the first round, which fits perfectly with the rebuild built entirely around draft picks. So the question for Zach Kleiman and the Memphis Grizzlies isn't just, can we convince Tarik to come over? It is his value higher as a player on our roster or as a trade chip to acquire more assets or move up in the draft? And that's a legitimate front office debate happening right now. Here's how I see it. The Tarik to Memphis story isn't dead. It's actually a little more nuanced than it's ever been. The old version was simple. Good young wing fits next to Ja, Bane, and Jaren. That story is gone. The new version is harder to sell to him, but potentially better for his development and his future finances. Immediate minutes, a growing young core, and a chance to be a foundational piece rather than a role player. But he signed a 3-year deal for a reason. His heart is in Istanbul, Turkey. And unless Memphis makes a compelling basketball case or another team offers something irresistible for his rights, Tarik may be one of the last great draft and stash stories that never make it to the NBA. Tarik to Memphis it made a lot of sense before. It still makes some sense on paper, but the team he's coming to doesn't exist anymore. And the new one has to convince a EuroLeague champion to leave everything he knows for a rebuild. And that's a tough sell. What do you think? Should Memphis keep his rights and wait, or trade them for picks and move on? Let me know in the comment section what you think the Grizzlies should do with Tarik and his draft rights.